Hello, and welcome. My name is MiniBetrayal, and this is Dyson Sphere Program, where I am having to record this audio for a second time because my microphone just bleh the first time. Anyway, so we're starting off this episode by connecting that titanium alloy build we made during the last episode to power to start getting that doing its thing. Now, of course, we don't have any titanium here yet, so we are going to have to go and get that, but at least this will sort of prime the factory at least. So that I think is going to be just about the first thing we do. I'll get my suit powered up first. Actually, it's not the first thing I do. Before I go and get the titanium, I think it was during the last episode, might have been the episode before, I set up some glass prism production. The idea being that I can make those blue particle exciters, something like that, whatever they're called. The things that go into making the power towers. I can make them a bit easier. But I realised that the prisms aren't really used for anything else, and I'm right next to the coils anyway. And if you mix a prism and a coil, you actually get those blue things. So I may as well just make them directly. So that is what I do first, just, feeding in whatever prisms I did manage to store up first, and every little helps when it comes to that, I guess. Okay, so just having a quick look at all of the things we'll need. So we need accumulators, we need the energy exchangers, and even though I'm only just queuing them up now, I will also need the interstellar logistics system. So that is what we are continuing to work to in this episode. So remembering that I need the titanium alloy, so I need to go and get the titanium. This is where I power up my suit, and off we go to Anaqua. Now, on the way to Anaqua, I do something quite important, something I've mentioned that I would do in the last couple of episodes. It is time to rename our home planet. Now, I've settled on a name. It's a little bit of an obscure reference, so brownie points to anyone who recognizes where it comes from. Our home planet is now called First Landing. So yeah, so if you recognize where that comes from, let me know in the comments, and brownie points. I guess a little bit of a hint, it is from my favorite sci-fi IP, and it also kind of makes sense because, it is the first place that we landed on. So, it fits. Anyway, so here we are now on Anaqua, and I go and get myself some titanium and charge up the suit. There's really not much more to say about this particular journey. I'm completely full on titanium. I didn't bring any extra power towers with me, forgetting that I now no longer have like a specific mech charging spot on this planet, so I just have to stand by a single tower. And then home time, really. Now, I am getting better at not using too much mech suit juice getting into orbit, which gives me a little bit more juice when it comes to accelerating towards the other planet. I am getting better at that. So actually going quite, not super fast, but we're going faster between planets now. And it also helps that First Landing, or technically Arioff 3, Arioff 2 and Anaqua are in relatively close orbits at the moment. They're about a quarter step out of phase. But anyway, here we are now on our home planet of First Landing, just fueling up the mech suit again, or technically not fueling, but helping the suit charge up. And we'll go and drop off the titanium we picked up. Actually, not in the titanium alloy spot, because we stopped doing science. Actually, I'm not sure if we stopped doing science, but whether or not we had stopped it, we were going to stop doing it because we were no longer making titanium crystals for the yellow science. So that's where I drop off that. Charging up the suit again, and this of course means we have to go back to pick up more titanium for the titanium alloy. On this journey, I do the other thing I said I was going to do and rename our home star. Now this one is even more obscure, so double brownie points to anyone in the comments who recognizes the name Othala. This comes from my second favorite sci-fi IP, and it truly is an obscure one. So let me know in the comments if you recognize where that comes from. Right, so yeah, much, I guess, more of the same for this particular journey. I don't land anywhere particularly close to where I'm going, but we head off, get more titanium, charge up the suit, and then back to first landing. So yeah, elevator music, I guess. Oh, magnetic particle trap. We've now done that science. That is the purple box, I think. I think it was the purple box. It's one of the things we need for the energy exchanger. Well, actually, I'm not sure if we need it for the energy exchanger. We definitely need it for the logistics system, though. So that's one thing that we will need to get. Now, inconveniently, as I'll recognise later on in the episode, we actually need graphene to make the particle trap, and there's no fire ice in this system. I can get deuterium from our gas planet, but not fire ice, so we're going to have to do that the old-fashioned way, unfortunately. But oh well. And we get the semiconductor material as well, which is just an intermediate step on the way to the processor. That's fine. That's something that needs to be done. And back to first landing. Okay, so I look at refilling the suit. Of course, my suit is full of titanium at the moment, so I can't actually take any of that out of there. But we drop off the titanium where it's needed, stand here for a little bit, just keeping an eye on the new factory, making sure that all of those machines are working, making us a nice amount of titanium alloy. Also have a quick look at the hydrogen storage there. Of course, we've only really started using this factory just a few seconds ago, so... oh no, the particle trap is used for the energy exchanger. There you go. Okay. Yeah, we've only just started using this factory, so we haven't built up a huge amount of hydrogen yet. So, this is me just figuring out where I want to build these items that we're going to need. The accumulators, the energy exchangers, and the logistics stations. Now, the logistics stations at this point I will probably just handcraft, but we still need the materials. So I'm going to build myself a little factory. Now, the accumulators, which is what I will need in bulk, they need silicon. So even though there's not much copper on an aqua, partially because we're already using copper for... Well, I guess we're kind of using it. It is being used at least for the solar panels, but otherwise there's not a lot of copper there. Anyway, it is the only planet in the solar system which has silicon, and we need the silicon crystals for the accumulators. So that's where I'm going to build this factory. So what I'm doing here is just making sure the factory will work without me while I'm gone, gathering up materials I need. And it occurs to me that we do have a large buildup of hydrogen here, and hydrogen fuel rods only use hydrogen and titanium, and we've actually already got titanium in relatively close proximity. It's being used for the titanium crystals at the moment, but that's fine. So if I build just a little constructor that pinches a tiny amount of the titanium, not only can we use some of this stored hydrogen we have, we can use it as a more efficient power source for the mech. The graphite that we're using at the moment has a 60% bonus when it's put in the mech suit, in addition to just being a less energetic fuel source anyway. The hydrogen fuel rod has a 200% bonus when put in the mech suit. So... it just makes sense, really. So yeah, I just get this set up there, just pinching a tiny amount of titanium off that line. Eventually this will build up and stop producing anyway, so it's not going to use that much titanium. And as I guess an added bonus, this means we're no longer pinching graphite from the power station we have on this planet. Now, I'm not entirely sure at this point at least, I'm not entirely sure how high the hydrogen fuel rod stack, so I was just there watching it. It got to 14, I think, which is more than 10, which is what I was expecting it to stack to. So I just let that going. Go and pick up a few more materials that I might need: circuits, coils, the blue things, I always forget what they're called, sorters, and of course belts. and just get rid of some tiny bits of ore I don't need. So the idea being that I can make as much of this factory as I can in one go. So we'll go and pick up whatever hydrogen fuel rods we've managed to craft, and then we will head on over to back to Anaqua, where we will make our factory to make the at least the accumulators and probably the ingredients for the energy exchanger and the logistics tower. Okay, so there we go. Got 60 of them in my inventory. Off we go. So yeah, the trick to getting as much speed is to just fly up in sail mode until you leave the gravitational pull of the planet, which I think is about an altitude of about 1 kilometer. Fly up without accelerating. Don't accelerate until you're out of the gravity well, and then you don't use much juice doing that, so you can use most of it accelerating to the destination planet. Okay, so yeah, in fact all of the rest of this episode is preparing this new factory. So we start off with the copper. Now this is the only copper deposit we've got here that is not in use. Now you can see the one next to it isn't actually doing anything at the moment because we're backed up on solar panels. So I might tap into that as well, depending how much copper we're going to want in the long run. But for now we just got this. I figure I can probably squeeze 2 lines out of this, at least more than 1 line. So I get a double row of smelters here, 6 on each side. So this should give us 12 copper per second in total. Get that set up, and for now I don't do anything with it. We move on to the next resource, which is silicon. We need the silicon crystals for the accumulators, so I get apparently 6 miners on this one, which can almost certainly deal with 2 lines. So I think actually no, that's not 6, I can't count, that is 7 miners. So I put 3 onto one line, 4 onto the other, and the side with 4 miners on it just overflows onto the first line if it needs to. Hook it all up to power networks, using the same thing where it's all sort of hooked up to each other, not yet actually hooked up to power. Remember, we don't actually have a huge amount of power on this planet. Okay, now silicon's slightly different. It takes 2 silicon ore to make 1 silicon bar, so you can have 2 rows of 6 feeding onto a single output belt. But then I realized that it's actually a 1-to-1 ratio from the silicon bars to the silicon crystals. So like we do with iron, we can just have 1 smelter feed directly into another. So we can have 6 rows of smelters on each side that feed directly onto 1 output belt. So this should give us 6 crystals per second. It should be more than we need. Okay, so getting all of that hooked up to its power networks, and then we move on. Now the blue motors, they require graphite, which requires coal. Now there is a small amount of coal on this planet, just a single deposit I think, that has about 1 million coal in it. Unfortunately it's all the way on the other side of the planet, so we have to fly all the way around there, find it, and it's also really small. So I set up 4 miners just to try and gather it as quickly as I can. And it's just a fairly normal smelting it into the graphite. So 3 on each side. Apparently I've actually run out of smelters, so I have to wait for some of them to craft, but that's fine. Hook in the sorters, set up the recipe, copy it across, and copy in the new smelters. It's all hooked up to each other, so just finish off the belts, and I'm going to leave that there for now. Then, looking at the recipe for the blue motors again, that needs magnets in addition to everything else, and we'll also need circuits, so we need both iron bars and magnets to be smelted here. So there's a few iron deposits over this side of the planet. This one I hook up 6 miners to 2 rows of smelters making bars. So it's you know, it's essentially the same as like the copper smelting thing I did. Got 2 rows there, each of them just smelting into 2 output lines of iron bars. Yeah, takes a little bit of time figuring out the spacing, and then just using this wonderful copy sorters mod just to help speed things up a little bit. There we go, 6 on each side, so again 12 iron bars per second. Hook them up to the as yet unpowered electricity grid and finish off the belts, and then we'll move over to one of the neighbouring iron deposits, this one over here, where we'll do almost exactly the same. We'll set up 6 miners, going to 2 rows of smelters, making magnets. Now, magnets, they take slightly longer to craft, whereas the iron bars only take 1 second. The magnet, as you can see there, takes 1.5 seconds to turn an ore into a magnet. That means we need 1.5 times as many machines to get the same throughput. So instead of having 6 on each side, we are going to have 9 on each side. So there's 1 already there, and at this point I'm not sure exactly how long the belts need to be, but we'll hook in the sorters, and that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So we're a little bit too far with the belts there. Okay, yeah, and it'll be exactly the same, feeding onto 2 output lines in the middle. So that should give us 12 magnets per second, some of which will turn into coils by combining it with copper, some of which we will just feed straight to blue motor production. Okay, so same again, putting in the sorters, finishing off the belts, and yeah, this is where I realised, oh wait, we need graphene to make these things, and we don't have any fire ice. So yeah, I spent a little bit of time figuring out exactly what I want to do next. Then I sort of think, well, I've got a bunch of stuff to craft. Oh, actually, no, I missed a bit. The red motors need gears. So I'm going to get myself a little bit of gear production as well. We're going to need quite a few red motors because it takes 2 red motors to make a green motor. We need green motors for a bunch of things, and it takes 2 green motors to make a blue motor, which we also need. So yeah, off one of the iron plate lines, I just set up a little bit of gear production like that. This then is the point where I'm not sure exactly what I want to do next, but I want everything roughly in the same place. Now, everything I've got so far, the copper, the iron, and the silicon, is all at least on the same side of the planet, but the coal is still miles away. So we need to get that over to the other side of the planet, and I don't yet have the interplanetary logistics. So this is going to be an enormous belt, to the point where it starts doing weird things. Now you can see that last belt segment seems to think it's just one segment. So I spent a bit of time flying around trying to find a convenient place to put this. And actually do a little bit of experimentation here. I deliberately leave that last segment a little bit long, and you can see that it at least appears to work. I decided I don't trust it though. I'm using mods and I don't want the game to crash if something gets updated in the background, so I just leave the belts as they at least are intended to work. And we have this enormous belt feeding back to where we are making our iron plates and magnets and gears. And then, well, we're drawing to the end of the episode now. Pretty much the rest of the episode is me building this enormous belt. I find it kind of cool. You can kind of see the ghost through the planet there, or at least some of it. So, yeah. Yeah, that's literally it for this episode. So, a quick reminder, if you can come up with any good names for what is now Othala 1, our innermost power planet, do leave them in the comments. And also, if you recognize where the names First Landing and Othala come from, I mean, there's nothing special. You get brownie points and double brownie points for Othala, because that really is quite an obscure one. No Googling, that's cheating. But yes, so leave answers and suggestions and things in the comments. You know, it helps with engagement and algorithms and such. But that is about all we have time for this episode. So as we finish up this belt, I will say thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again soon.